Dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine here at MSU, and welcome you tonight to the 23rd annual Dr. William G. Anderson Lecture Series, Slavery to Freedom and American Odyssey, 23 years. I'd like to begin by extending our gratitude to the numerous sponsors who have helped make this year's series possible, from the many MSU college and unit sponsors to the community organizations and corporate sponsors. This is truly a collaborative event. I ask if you have a moment to take a look at our brochures and web pages on the event for a complete list of all of our sponsors. We hope you'll make a point to acknowledge them for helping us bring our thought-provoking speakers to East Lansing. The dialogues that occur as a part of this series foster important historical and cultural reflections about the contributions of African Americans in this country. As many of you know, Dr. William G. Anderson led our college in establishing this lecture series, which was named in his honor in 2014. Dr. Anderson, his wife Norma, Martin Luther King Jr., and Ralph Abernathy were integral in the Albany movement, one of the most important civil rights struggles in the United States. We are indebted to Dr. Anderson for sacrifices during the civil rights movement as a trailblazer in the osteopathic medical profession, and for his efforts and passion to make the Slavery to Freedom series what it has become. I know he's watching virtually today. Following in that legacy, I also want to highlight our Associate Dean for Diversity and Campus Inclusion, Dr. Marita Gilbert. Dr. Gilbert and her team are working tirelessly to not only the MSU College of Osteopathic Medicine, but the greater university in becoming places of inclusive excellence. And we thank her and her team for these ongoing efforts. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over and get out of the way and turn it over to Dr. Gilbert.
Good evening. I'm gonna need a little more energy than that. Hello and good evening. That's better. Listen, I am so excited for us to be back in person after 3 years. So I'm gonna start by just welcoming you back in person to join us for the 2023 William G. Anderson Slavery to Freedom Lecture Series, An American Odyssey. I'm so glad to be with all of you, my closest friends, as we are celebrating Black histories, Black herstories, and Black futures. So before we get started with our program, I'm gonna invite Dr. Red Dog Sina, who is Associate Professor of Health Programs in Osteopathic Manipulative Medicine and Vice Chair of our DEI Committee, to come to the stage and read our land acknowledgement. Following Dr. Sina, you will hear the melodious voice of Phoenix Miranda, who will sing Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Good evening. Michigan State University occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi peoples. In particular, the university resides on land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. We recognize Michigan's 12 federally recognized Native nations, historic indigenous communities in Michigan, indigenous individuals and communities who live here now, and those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. Thank you.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Oh, sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
All right. So, first, I want to thank my dean, Dean Andrea Amalfitano. I want to thank you for the beautiful welcoming us all into this space. But I personally want to thank Dean Amalfitano for his just continual support of this series and of me personally. I want to thank Dr. Sina for being here. Thank you for leaving clinic to be able to be with us and sharing the land grant acknowledgement. Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you so much. I got to see Phoenix a couple weeks ago at our MLK dinner, and so this is just another moment for us to reconnect. I'm glad we were able to have you in person this year. So I want to thank all of you this evening, both in person, those of you who are streaming in through our internet and live stream. I'm just so appreciative for you joining us for our first speaker of the 23rd annual Dr. William G. Anderson Lecture Series, Slavery to Freedom. For more than 2 decades, this series has given the community an opportunity to listen to iconic leaders of civil rights and justice advocacy from different generations and backgrounds. The Slavery to Freedom series provides an opportunity to reflect on the richness of our histories and herstories, and to consider the work we can do together today and in the future. And I'm telling you, I know, I am confident, and I believe our future is bright. So that's all I'm sure you want to hear from me. I am excited to welcome Marley Dias, who began the hashtag 1000 Black Girl Books movement at the age of, yes, 11, so that Black girls could see themselves and their experiences reflected in literature. In 2018, Marley was recognized by Time as one of the 25 most influential teens and named as the youngest member of the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Ms. Dias is also an author and a freshman at Harvard University, as well as the executive producer and host of Bookmarks, celebrating Black voices on Netflix. The work of Ms. Dias is an example to all of us that everyone can make a difference and contribute to the justice movements in our communities, no matter where we are in our own life story. Please, everyone, welcome Ms. Marley Dias. Okay, y'all, this Black girl hair is giving these microphones a workout. All right, so Marley, it is wonderful to be with you in person this afternoon and this evening. I want to welcome you to Michigan State University and welcome to the College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Hi,
You want to say hi to the...
Hi.
So it's Black History Month, right? And it is really a time of reflection and celebration, as I mentioned, of Black histories and herstories and Black futures. I always like to start these conversations by giving gratitude for those who have made it possible for us to exist and even be in this space, right? And so I like to start by thinking about our ancestors, our elders, the trailblazers who have influenced us, right? So the first question is, who are the history makers? Now that could mean they're famous, that could mean they're in your family. Who are the ancestors and elders who have influenced your work?
I'd say for me, my great-grandmothers on both sides really come up as figures that have both inspired and informed the work I do, and also are a huge spiritual and emotional motivator. So my great-grandma on my dad's side, I had grown up knowing. She lived until I was 10, and she'd always I think we'd always had a very special connection, me being an only child and my dad being an only child as well. So we just kind of, you're kind of forced to see us as the cool kids, you know what I mean? We're the best and the worst at the same time. So she and I had always been very, very close, and I think she had read to me a lot as a child. She'd always affirmed me, and she really held our that side of my family at least together in spirit and in hope. All of my family lives on the same cul-de-sac in Hyannis, Massachusetts, and it was her house that sort of was always the space of love and of healing for me to see my community and the people that looked like me. And my dad growing up in Hyannis is a very not diverse, place, and everyone he knew that was Black were his cousins or his cousins' girlfriends, and that was really about it. And having her and having that neighborhood and that space that she created for this sort of ability to heal from the pains of living in such a homogenous and unsupportive environment was just a really important space for me. And then on my other side, my mom was raised by her grandmother. So I think that I have to thank, for the greatness that is my mom, I have to thank her grandmother, my great-grandmother, for pouring into her. My mom was raised having only read the Bible as the first book she read until she was 13. And to think of the lessons that she's learned from exploring her spirituality, exploring her faith, and being a curious and driven and incredibly intelligent person, having my great-grandmother to guide her through those stories, to guide her through those experiences, and to affirm her while my mom's mom, my grandma, was living in the United States and working in the US and Canada. So I think those two women really held and showed the position of what it means to be a leader, what it means to sacrifice for other people, and what it means to stay motivated even if the fruits of your labor don't always look like the fruits of other people's labor. And I think about them all the time in the work that I do.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there may be some who are here or who are viewing who may be unfamiliar with how 1,000 Black Girl Books kind of came to be.
Yeah.
Could we start by you sharing your story and how this campaign has evolved and where we are now?
So the 1,000 Black Girl Books campaign started when I was about 10 or 11. I really loved to read, and my fifth grade teacher, I got lucky. I got the cool teacher, so I was so excited. I loved my fifth grade teacher. He was really the best, but I noticed that as much as he loved and encouraged reading, we would read in class, he would read to us. The books that we read were really mainly about his experiences. He grew up in a rural environment in the South, and we read the Shiloh series, we read Old Yeller, and we read Where the Red Fern Grows. Those are the 3 books. So it's okay, first one, we're good. Second one, okay. Third one, I was like, bro, there are other books out there. And it started to frustrate me. And it was also because I had grown up in a household that encouraged reading, and I had access to so many diverse books that living in an upper middle class and middle class neighborhood, we have the resources and the funding to have better books and different books. And it really just it irritated me, but I loved my teacher, and I kind of put those feelings aside. And then I came to 6th grade, and I noticed that my other friends I went to a Central 6, they went to other elementary schools, they reassigned Where the Red Fern Grows. So I was like, all right, so now we're really we're pushing it. We can't have kids reading these same stories back to back that are not showing their narratives, that are not, painting a picture of our true histories as a country. And it frustrated me. So my mom and I were sitting eating pancakes at our local diner, and I told her that I was sick of reading about white boys and their dogs. She was like, all right, Marley, but what are you gonna do about it? You gotta do something then. She's always been the type of mom where if I complain about something more than once, we're not doing it a third time. So I decided that I was gonna collect books where Black girls were the main character. Originally 100, and then I was like, 1,000's like a really good amount of books.
Yeah.
So we went, I kind of reached for the goal of 1,000, and I wanted to donate them to the school that my mom and her mom and my great-grandmother had attended in Retreat St. Mary, Jamaica. So the campaign started off fairly unsuccessful. My town and district were not very supportive of it. They didn't think that there was a reason to change the books because kids there are very smart, they read very well, they perform well, so there's no reason to sort of rustle any feathers in that way. But I received a lot of support from people in Philadelphia, where I was originally born, and they were super supportive of my work. And it slowly started to rise and rise and rise and rise. And then we reached eventually 1,000 books 2 weeks before the deadline. And it was really, really exciting. And I got to donate now 1,800 books to that school in Jamaica and 14,000 books in total over the past 7 years. So it's been really, really nice to be able to do that. But now I think for me as a person that is like being privately educated, the issue of book bannings in this country and the way that like we've kind of, book banning was not a thing at all when I was 10 or 11. Like it was, but it also wasn't. The books weren't there, but they weren't being banned. They were being unintentionally excluded. But now to have this intentional effort, it's really starting to reshape how I think about 1,000 Black girl books and how it's becoming more of a civil rights issue.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a civil rights issue when I started, and now it does. And that's kind of a scary thing to think about, but it's also, I'm becoming more powerful as I get older. So I'm kind of excited. Like I'm not excited, but I'm also not excited. So I know that I wanna do more, and I know that there's a lot of places that I can make change now as I'm growing.
So that's a good segue into our next question because, you know, we often don't talk about literacy as one of the landscapes for social movements, right?
Yeah.
But having read your book, that's sort of the way that you frame it. So could you talk about the significance of reading and having access to books to Black communities? Like, why is that so important for us?
Well, literacy is important for so many reasons. I think oftentimes when I talk to kids, they feel like they think I'm trying to push them to be a bookworm or to be a person that just loves and sees stories as an amazing thing. But it's really about just having it's a core foundational skill for expression and for listening. And I think for a lot of kids, what kind of stifles their ability to create change is because they can't express themselves. They don't have a safe environment or a safe kind of wall to bounce off of, whether that's an educator or a parent or a caregiver that is willing to listen to them. And they're also not like literally having the words to express what they're saying. They do not have the vocabulary to articulate their emotions and the nuances of their emotions, their contradictions, their complications. And when kids don't have that skill, they lose so much of their voice, and they learn to stifle their own emotions and their own feelings as they exist because they simply cannot find the words to make them feel real, even though they are real. So literacy, regardless of if you like to read or not, which is what I was trying to emphasize today when we got to visit girls at Waverly Middle School, is that it allows for you to validate yourself and your feelings as you are experiencing them. It allows you to know that you are okay, to see the histories, to see the patterns that exist in our communities and in our existence, and to know that we are going to be good. I had the opportunity at school to go through like archival research and to read Angela Davis's diary, who is of course my wonderful successor in this series. I'm really happy I'm going first and not after her. I got to read her diary from when she was imprisoned in 1972, and having the ability to literally sit there and literally be able to read that, to understand her complicated words, because she's really smart, like to read the hard words, to read her difficult cursive handwriting, to get to express myself and see that, to get to express my own feelings and kind of pain as I was reading it, to know that I'm not alone is a gift that literacy gives me. And there's not many other ways we can communicate that provide us with that understanding. So particularly for Black communities, it is super important for us to have the skill of literacy, both for professional reasons, for ascending as our community, but also just to feel okay, to know that we are okay, and to understand our histories better, to see where these challenges arise, and to do something about it in both an emotionally intelligent and sort of socially intelligent way.
So I told you we were going to talk about this earlier. In your book, you talk a lot about your passions, some of your passions, right? So I love that you share one of your favorite books. I love that you talk about the fact that you love BuzzFeed quizzes. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's your guilty pleasure. And importantly, you talk about your work around youth mental wellness. And so that's kind of where I want to go on our next question. As you might imagine, that was going to resonate with me, right?
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about your work to develop health and wellness programs, particularly for women and girls, and those from impoverished circumstances?
So while I'm not a mental health expert, I think that schools, like as particularly going to a public high school, I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to do something and to do something impactful for the young women and girls in my town. So I've been a part of a camp that my mom runs called Super Camp. She runs a foundation called the Grassroots Community Foundation that does work to create a world where all girls grow up to be healthy women. And they have a camp that I was a part of, and we learned from a really amazing people at RWJ Barnabas, which is the largest healthcare system in New Jersey. We got to work with them, see all the different departments of how a hospital works, and to try to come up with some sort of project, theoretical project, which of course I can't really do things theoretically. I'm not great at that. So I couldn't figure out, I just wanted to do it. So we made a real project, and we made something called Green Ribbon Week, which was a mental health initiative that occurred during the first 2 weeks of school, where our kids would have days of solidarity. There'd be yoga in our school. There would be mental health facts, and really to promote positive mental health. So this is not a suicide prevention thing. This is not a crisis prevention thing, but understanding that mental health and physical health should be treated equally in schools when they truly are not, or at least were not in my school and in most school systems, to try to prioritize and understand that mental health can be preventative, that if we give kids resources and tools within the first beginnings of school, they don't end up having that, very predictable crisis in October and November when they realize they have 7 more months of school. We want to give them the tools now to feel okay, to feel safe, to feel secure, to form relationships with their guidance counselors and their teachers, to take moments for mental health breaks. And I was really interested in pushing for mental health day legislation. I was not successful in that respect, but I'm still interested in, I still think about it all the time. And Green Ribbon Week was now adopted by my town in West Orange and by a couple other organizations in the area. And it's something that I'm really excited to continue because I struggle with my mental health. I feel like I face, a lot of pressures from myself and from others. And to have that time and to do something that lasts beyond me makes me really excited for hopefully what other kids in my high school are figuring out or maintaining the legacy of some of the things I was able to do.
So you mentioned our time earlier today, this morning. So we got to go to Waverly Middle School, and we were with girls in the program Grit, Glam, and Guts. And I'll tell you what I saw from the outside, right? Like, it was cool at first when we were there, like, oh, okay, these people are here with us, this is great. But I noticed the shift when you talked about your own experience, right, of feeling isolated and at their age, and how reading really helped you kind of make sense of that and be okay. And then, as you remember, like, the whole, like, the walls opened up.
Yeah.
Y'all started doing TikTok. Y'all didn't teach me the dance, but that's okay. Y'all could have done a little two-step part, and I could have been in it, but at any rate.
I'm sorry.
Right? So if you, my feelings are still hurt. They cut me out the TikTok. It's all right. She gonna make one at the book signing.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
But if you could talk a little bit, right? So keeping on this theme of like our mental health and our mental wellness, right? I love that you talked about how books helped you navigate that. So if you could share with this audience who wasn't privy to being with us earlier, how books are important in that way. And certainly at that like very pivotal age.
Yeah. Well, I think it can be really easy to personalize our anxieties, to think that whatever makes us stressed or whatever is causing us problems is directly our fault, and that there was some sort of turning point in something that we did that made our lives hard. And books really provide you with the opportunity and perspective to know that you are not alone in those respects. And I feel like I really struggle with that because I found myself in a lot of very particular situations where I feel like there's nobody else on the planet that could possibly have been through this same thing that I've been through. Like, there's literally no way. And there's been times where there's actually been no way. But reading books and having characters that both look like me and don't look like me, but that share those common anxieties, that share those common experiences, that share those emotional truths, even if they're not the literal truths. I've read a book called The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, which is about Vietnam War soldiers. And I read that book and I had never related to it. I felt like I had not related to a character more than one. It was just one white man that was a soldier there, but he was talking about and facing emotional truths that I felt I had faced. And those same things came from Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, a book with a black girl as the main character. And I was really trying to emphasize to the kids in the visit that we can learn so much from depersonalizing our anxieties, understanding the humanity of who we are, and then being curious enough to explore and find that humanity in other people. And books are the fastest, the cheapest, And the most fun way to do that, it's not going to be on social media all the time, where we found ourselves, honestly, in a place full of a lot of violence, a lot of misinformation, a lot of inflammatory things, particularly for kids of that age of 13 to 14. We don't want them to be on their screens all the time, but we want them to form connections first through these books so they can then feel safe, feel connected to the world, have a strong understanding of history, and then they can go online and know that some of these things are not true. They have that basis of truth. They're able to decipher, untrue information. They're able to handle these spaces, and books provide us with that in a way that our technology cannot always do.
So let's talk fashion.
Okay.
All right. So I love that you talk a lot about the intentionality of how particularly Black girls represent our bodies, right? And earlier today, remember we had this conversation, I was like, Marley, I know that this is going to be streamed. I'm not wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Right? And I talked to you even about the experience last night of me making that decision and being really clear that I was, again, because we're talking about Black girl books, that I was going to represent the Black girl books moment and movement with the Socialite Society sweatshirt, right? So could you talk a little bit more about just kind of that importance, right, of sometimes us bucking people's expectations of us or that norming about how we represent ourselves, right?
I think the number one thing for me, at least as I've gotten older when it comes to my body and my style, is that I'm a lot taller than people think I am.
Yes.
I'm a lot taller than people think I am, which I don't know when everyone got the idea that I was like 5'4", and I personally, as a tall person, do not appreciate that. Like every time someone meets me and they're like, I thought you were short, I'm like, don't say that. Like, I've come to enjoy taking up that space, to enjoy being tall, and I oftentimes put myself in positions to be taller so that I can kind of confront the anxieties of being tall and know that I'm kind of putting myself in the deep end in that respect. And I think when it comes to fashion now, at least, or style, when I was younger, I was very interested in sort of just toying the line between masculinity and femininity. I think it's really fun to look professional, and I wore a lot of glasses, a lot of suits, a lot of button-ups and pants, and I still do that. But I think now it can be super fun to just do what I feel like, and just do anything. Like, there are no rules, there are no lines, and I think I created some rules for myself that I felt like I wanted to always look like, I wanted to feel like I was kind of in control because I matched or looked like some of the other people in the room. And now I 100% know that I don't have to do that and I don't need to do that. And what brings me the most comfort in this space is wearing what I feel like wearing what makes me feel comfortable. And I have always done that generally, but maybe I've done things that I felt comfortable because I knew that it would make other people comfortable. Like, that is what's forming the comfortability, not the true understanding of how I choose to express myself. And I think I've gotten a lot better about wearing my natural hair more in spaces. I mean, obviously not today, but I'm in school. It's a little bit trickier. But
I understand.
Exactly. But still, I wear my natural hair in videos where I have to record myself. I'll wear twists when I think they make me look like a boy. Like, I would say things like that to myself when I was younger, and sort of letting go of those things and knowing that, especially when I meet younger girls like I did today, that the way I talk about myself and sign of the things I've internalized that I view as a negative part of my body and a negative part of who I am impact them as well. Like, they receive that. If I'm not comfortable wearing my natural hair, if I'm not comfortable being tall, if I'm slouching, if I'm doing these things, all those messages are subconsciously received by them. And I want to do better by younger girls. I want to do better by teenage girls that follow me. And just showing them that it's completely okay to, to dress intuitively, to style yourself intuitively, and to not accept the negative messages surrounding your body or surrounding what you wear. Like, just simply rejecting them and making your own choices.
Yeah. So you've talked about this from the perspective of young women. I just kind of want to echo that point, though, because even at this age, what I will say in my professional experience being here, so I thanked my dean. I also have an EVP. So in medicine, typically I'm going to be the only person that looks like me when I walk in the room. And typically the folks that are sitting at the table have a black suit on, a navy suit on, sometimes a gray suit, right? But I will say that what I have appreciated about my supervisors is that when I show up with yellow, African prints, burgundy hair, my natural big hair, right? And so the reason I'm taking the time here is that for some of us that think this talk is just for young people, those of us who are managers, department chairs, deans, CEOs, it is important that you allow Black girls and Black women the space to be their authentic selves. And so I just wanted to pause, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want us to miss that moment and think, oh, they were talking to the young people. No, I'm talking to all of us in community, right? And not only make the space, but hold the space. So if someone were to question, well, why did she come in here with those braids? Then my dean says, because that's who she is and that's what she wanted to do today, right? So I just wanted to pause,
Yeah.
right? So that everyone got the
Absolutely.
same message about the importance of allowing us to show up authentically because we can be excellent regardless.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to go to another topic that's really important to you, and I'll allow you to take your time to really talk about social media and really its role, the role that you think or that you perceive social media has in both organizing and social justice advocacy, right? So I know as you tell your story, you talk about how going viral like really helped launch kind of really the collecting of the books.
Yeah.
You say it was unsuccessful at the start. I just
No,
say,
it actually was. It actually was. Like I had 200 books. I had 200 books for the first like several months, and then I did 2 interviews, and it skyrocketed. Like it really was. I promise. I know it didn't seem like it, but it was hard. I thought I was gonna quit. So I will always mention that. I was like,
So
it would have been the end of it.
So this is, I know your mom is here. I can't see where she is.
Right there.
Okay, I'm gonna do the mama moment right now. So what my mama would have said is, in due season, honey. It just wasn't due season. So right, you were at 200 because it wasn't due season. But if you could talk about the power of social media and its significance in social justice advocacy.
Well, I was originally, when I was like invited here, I was originally going to do a speech on social media.
Yes.
And I felt like, I was like, it's really tricky for me to kind of talk about and articulate my feelings about social media because they fluctuate all the time. But I think, especially because this sort of conversation was about freedom, my original thoughts is really that social media gave me the freedom to do what I do. Without it, this campaign does not exist. It does not function.
Yeah.
It does not flourish. It does not touch people. It does not garner donations. It does not build a community. That is purely the greatness of what the digital age has done for me. Now, on the other hand, I think that social media, particularly because like activism online was not really the thing like when I started in 2015, it wasn't the thing that it is now. People did not post their opinions unless they were, talking about like politics in particular, like a very specific political event. It wasn't that people were meant to spread awareness about things. People didn't just post infographics and information about, climate change or whatever.
Right.
These were not, there weren't many conversations happening online unless someone was doing something really pointed or really extremist or something that was really passionate. And now I think we found ourselves in an age where people have become so desensitized to the violence, the hatefulness, and all of the honestly terrible things that are online. And it really hurts me because I think that I've lost my freedom to enjoy social media in some way because people use it so recklessly.
Yeah.
And don't understand that they can really affect other people with what they say and what they post. And oftentimes just simply the resharing of police brutality videos and things like that. Like I personally cannot handle that type of stuff. So when I think about social media wellness, like I've been off of Instagram. Today was the first day I've had it since the start of my semester. I just didn't want to be on it. I wanted to be focused. I wanted to be present. And for me now, I think that it's not that I take back anything that I've said about social media, but I think that the landscape has changed. And I think it's really important to stop relying on social media to tell you the truth or to speak to you in some way, unless you're like, particularly with AI and all these like things that are changing about it, like we're not seeing real things on there anymore. And I felt like 2016 to 2015 to 2018, maybe we were, but post-COVID or now still and to some degree during COVID, I don't think that these platforms are safe anymore. And they never really truly were safe, but they're definitely not safe anymore. And I still think that it's important for young kids that are growing up in very isolated and rural environments to be able to see themselves, particularly kids that are in the LGBTQ community. I think there's a lot of great things about kids that get to watch videos on YouTube and to hear other kids talking about their coming out stories, to talk about their experiences, to watch videos of parents reuniting with kids in the military. Like, we still want those things. We still need that goodness in the world, but we also need to stop putting our curiosity is not meant to be fed online. And I think that's kind of why I've recentered back to books and recentered back to reading and to research and to valuing history, because social media has created this sort of unpredictable landscape of lies. And I don't like it anymore. I can't personally take it anymore. And I don't know what to do about it because it's a hashtag 1000 Black Girl Blitz. There is a hashtag. But the hashtag is like, my hashtag at least is great. It's all positivity. You meet so many great kids, but I can't speak to what happens everywhere online. And I really think that it's become a space of a lot of anti-Blackness and a lot of these, like, of the Black body in of itself has become something that people are willing to spread and show in the most vile and unethical and immoral ways online. And we do that in real life too.
Yeah, we do.
But we make it 10 times faster and 10 times easier to scroll and to comment and to say something online. And I really want to make sure for myself, and at least for the other young people that I feel I have encouraged to use the digital space to create change, to understand that if we do not have a strong base to break these myths about our people, about our communities, about people around us, if we do not read, if we do not know the truth of what has happened in enslavement, if we do not know the truth of the way that Black communities have been broken down in the United States and burned and killed and murdered, we need to understand these things first before we even think about downloading an app. All the myths need to be clear for us before we think about engaging with these things. And I think I was a little bit less pragmatic in the past, and I would like to be more now. So, yeah.
I was just letting y'all breathe for a minute. So in the audience, you all have been given cue cards, I believe. If you have questions, were you given cue cards? You were not given cue cards. Some have cue cards. Okay, so at this moment, there's someone that's going to get the rest of you some cue cards, but I only paused so that you can start to think about questions, because I only have a couple more, and then it'll be time for you all, okay? All right, there's someone that's going to come bring them. So back to us. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. So we're going to do not quite lightning round, but you don't have to think like really intensely for these. All right, so I know what the answer to this first question, at least for one song. What are your top 3 right now, go-tos on your playlist?
No, it's not my top. Okay, so I wanted to walk out to Last Dance by Donna Summer. That's my favorite, like, walkout song. I've been doing that for like 4 or so years, and I wanted to keep doing it. But my top 3 songs right now, I really like SZA. So I'd say like Awkward by SZA. I would say, okay, I do like a little bit of Shoot 'em Up, Bang Bang music. So I'm gonna say Who Wants Smoke, which is like a G Herbo song, 21 Savage song. I like that song a lot. And then, who else do I put on there? There's a Kendrick song called XXX featuring U2. I really like that song. It's on Damn.
That's a solid 3.
That's a pretty solid 3.
That's a solid 3
it's a
right
solid
now.
3. I think music is just super important to me, and my dad is huge on music, like has a huge record collection, always grew up in a musical household. So I'm excited to be that type of person too when I'm older.
So you were talking about your mom and I, our hip hop kind of, that's our genre, you know. Who's your favorite 90s hip hop?
90s? I mean, I'm very partial to Nas because my dad is very partial to Nas. But I think my favorite, I'm not going to say, this is just generally old school, is Jay Dilla. I love Jay Dilla so much. Like, I actually, like, Donuts is my favorite album. Like, I think he's really one of the greatest geniuses of our time. So.
You're winning, Marley, you're winning.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite thing about going away to college?
My favorite thing about going away to college is Honestly, no drama. No drama. I think high school, like, it wasn't like there was a lot of drama, but I said to the girls today too, is that you're just bored. Like, you're kind of on this monotonous schedule. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing. Like, even the small little things that irritate you, it's very hard to let go of them because high school puts so much stress on you and, like, beats you down and puts you in this very strict routine. You're not eating enough. You're not sleeping enough. You're not going outside. And then you're just forced to interact with all these people that are your age. And I think college has kind of presents an opportunity for my own space and still being around people that are my age, which I love, like the community that I have, but it's on my own time. It's not like I'm waiting for a bell to tell me what to do. And I think that allows me to have like a perfect amount of, even a better relationship with my work because I can just leave and feel like I don't have to tell 10 teachers what I'm doing and, write all these emails. I can just leave, be okay, like talk to my professors that are much more supportive of the quality of my work and they can really assess that what I'm doing is super meaningful and it's not to challenge their views, it's because I love what I do.
Yeah.
And to just have friends that are also super highly engaged in whatever they do and they're really passionate. So I think they respect and honor at least, they honor my work in a way that I didn't feel honored in high school. So.
Yeah. So I loved our time together with Grit, Glam, and Guts. What I think I loved most, even though I got not invited to the TikTok, I loved hearing just the joy, that giggling, right? Like
Yeah.
Miss Terry's not in here anymore, but I was like, do you hear that? And she's like, yeah. And it just, to me, sounded like music, just black girls just giggling and just being able to dance and just huddled up and sharing their books. And we got to hear them talk about their favorite music, books that they liked and didn't like. But we also got a chance to hear the things that they're dreaming about. What is Marley Dias dreaming about?
I think I'm dreaming about, I know that I'm a creative person and I think I've sold myself short on being creative. So I'd say I'm dreaming about writing a lot more, creating a lot more things for my own. I crochet. I crochet. I can actually get down with some crochet. I've made some sweaters. I'm pretty good. So just being more creative, I think being more in touch with my genuine emotional truths, because I think I'm very good at pattern recognition. Like if I see something and I relate to it, I'm like, boom, like I get this, I understand it, but I have to come to terms more with what that means for me. Like I think I can find a representation or find empathy in a lot of places, but I'm not always understanding the feeling that is making me feel represented. And I want to become more in touch with those feelings. And I think creativity is a really important route for doing that. I got to create a zine with feminists this year, their first inaugural zine, and I actually submitted it for a final, and I got an A on the final. So it was all around creative project, academic project, work project. It was like the perfect thing I got to do, and I want to keep doing things like that, where I can make real things that are in touch with my emotions, in touch with my creativity, and in touch with all the research and things that I'm doing at school. So
I love it. So whether I listened to your talks or read your book, which I loved all the colors, you consistently offer strategies, right? So what are the strategies for confidence or writing? But one of the things I most appreciated was you had the activist toolkit.
yeah.
Now let me tell you, you had a lot of little gems in there, but number 7, rest.
That's the gem. That's the gem.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's so important, but why did you think why did you think you needed to articulate that, especially for young leaders, right? The importance of rest.
Well, I struggle with it as well. I think I feel like I do get enough rest, but I don't sleep great. I sleep a good amount, but I don't sleep great. And I think it's just one of those things that can get forgotten, particularly for the young girls of color or young kids that are reading the book and are kids that have younger siblings, that kids that are already forming the habits of I'm taking care of someone before I'm taking care of myself, and they're sometimes unable to articulate or understand their own needs because they've been placed with so many responsibilities. So if you're just in high school and you have 2 younger siblings and you're taking all these honors classes and you're applying to college and you're doing these things, rest feels so unimportant, but we're building habits from the second we're born.
Yes.
And it's one of those habits that is really hard to get people to tap into, even for myself. But I try to remind myself, I try to be aware of that's something I want to work towards and something I have to do. And trying to get young kids into the practice of taking care of themselves makes it for adults that take care of themselves. So it's really as simple as that.
All righty. Well, those are the questions for me. We have two medical students who are going to join us at this mic over here, Brandon and Rajul, and then we will get some questions from the audience.
perfect.
Hello all. My name is Brandon Henry. I'm actually a fourth-year student here at MSU Com. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's great to meet you earlier and then also get to hear you talk. What you've been doing is amazing, and just been kind of in awe, just kind of listening and seeing how you've been able to navigate your landscape. So the first question is, so can you speak about Jamaica, about how Jamaica may have helped you shape your worldview?
Yeah, my mom is Jamaican and she's an immigrant, and I'm first generation on that side, fifth generation on the other side. So it's very interesting to be a part of a family where you have like African Americans who are not brought to the United States not through enslavement, but are incredibly prideful. Like my dad's side is incredibly happy to be American. When my dad goes to football games and they do the flyover, he cries. Every time he cries. Like he's just like, I love the like I just love, like, like he can't stop himself from feeling that genuine nationalistic urge to love America. And he still ultimately feels betrayed by America. He does feel hurt, but it's this weird and difficult mix of emotions, particularly coming from a military family. So on that side, I have a cousin who was the chief of staff of the Army, and I have a cousin that was in the first all-black Ranger, or uncle that was in the first black paratrooper thing in the U.S. military. So it's a huge military family. And then to have my mom, who is from rural Jamaica, grew up with her cousins and her grandma, who had this education that was deeply related to religion and kind of deeply spiritual in that sense. It's not a push and pull, but it's just two very different perspectives on America. And then to have a mom that's a sociologist, and then to have a nationalistic father is like, wow, like that's like the conversations, guys. Watching a football game is like a lot. So like we're having, you know what I mean? Like we're talking about all types of things at once. But Jamaica in of itself, I think, doing the work that I've done there, it's really interesting to be in a black country that does not have, like, for them to be reading Dick and Jane books in a 100% black country, to have people on billboards that are white and skin bleaching ads everywhere. It's really interesting to see how white supremacy functions in a homogeneously black place and in a developing country. So my relationship to Jamaica is filled with pride because of the culture, because of the music. I think my mom being Jamaican has allowed me to reject so many ideas about how I should eat or how I should look or how I should move my body, because she has not subscribed and has not been absorbed in America's way of hating black women and black people. But she has experienced the ways that Jamaica still can hate and police black people, and she's chosen to reject that. So I feel a lot of pride for being Jamaican. My name is Marley. I'm named after Bob Marley. But I also think that having a mom who has particularly sort of been able to take, like, she's able to look kind of from, like, if this is her country, if this is the world, she's able to look outside of it and to understand the patterns and relationships and structures that are at play. I can enjoy and love so many things while still simultaneously understanding their challenges and the way that they impact me. So Jamaica does impact me, but to have a person like her who allows me to step outside of those things and appreciate other things, qualify some things, reject some things, gives me the power to love Jamaica so much. Like, I love it, and I love the work I've been able to do there. I did Read Across Jamaica last year, and having her to be with me to step outside of some of the structural challenges and the things that impact me has just been really awesome, and it makes me so much more prideful.
Thank you for your response. So we have another question as well. And this question's talking more about developing literacy in young people who have difficulty with reading. So whether that may be that they didn't read when they were younger to starting as an adult or older child, or just has some type of reading disability.
So I think one thing for at least American kids and trying to get them to read more is that Americans, we love pop culture and movies and music. We love watching TV and we love watching commercials and all these things that we don't need to love. We don't need to love being on our screens all the time. We don't need to love being satiated by media. But what I can oftentimes do for kids that don't like to read is we might talk about a book like I mean, The Outsiders is not a great example, but The Outsiders is an example of an adaptation of a book. So we might say, okay, you don't like to read, but look how beautiful The Outsiders is as a film, and know that that was made by an author. That without authors, we don't have The Outsiders. Without authors, we don't have The Wolf of Wall Street or whatever movies these, like a lot of kids like. You're able to, oftentimes these things are adaptations of stories. Even movies like 10 Things I Hate About You is an adaptation of Taming of the Shrew. So like, maybe you might like Heath Ledger as like a heartthrob, but that comes because of Shakespeare, or that comes because of whatever, African parable we might be talking about in Wakanda Forever. So for kids that are struggling with literacy, I try to show them at least that we lose so much of the things that make us happy when we lose storytelling and when we lose books. And additionally to that, I think in an an education standpoint, education system standpoint, in the United States, there are so many kids that need teaching aids and like other aids with them that we don't have enough aids in this country. And that's one of the things that I have a problem with. I did a study last year kind of comparing the United States and Finland, and one thing that I really liked about Finland's education system is that they don't treat kids having special education needs as if it's some type of stigma, like they don't have a stigma around those types of things. 72% of kids in Finland in elementary school or primary school have an aide with them in the classroom, helping them as they're experiencing things second by second, day by day, and supporting them. And I think the United States, and private schools at least, or any schools that have the money to do that, we need more money for schools, period. But if you have the money to do that, just consider investing in that. I think that a lot of times parents might not understand that their kids, the way that they can walk their kids step by step through things at home needs to be translated into school. Yeah. And it's not on the parent's responsibility to always urge for those things. There's so many structural challenges with education that I can't say that one specific person needs to do this to make this happen, but I know that having more aides in the classroom and having more kids that have caregivers with them constantly will give them more care. Yeah. We'll give them more care when we'll make them like reading. And that's one of the things that I think about a lot as a strategy to help kids is to request or look to getting kids and seeing if they have special needs that are not just the special needs that we usually talk about. So.
Okay, and the last question that I have is actually my question. And so my mom, when I was growing up, my mom always said, in order to play the game, in order to know the game, you gotta play the game. And so I guess my question is, like, how do you, with knowing all the different things that you know with regards of, Black history, women's rights, women's suffrage throughout the different time periods, take all that knowledge and then also sit into some of these rooms and places that you may be one of one or one of two, and then able to still confidently express every aspect of your Blackness within those spaces without necessarily getting pushed out the back door a little bit too. Do you have any advice with that?
That's a hard thing, but I honestly think being at Harvard has helped me with that a lot, because I went to a high school that was like 60% Black, so I always was in an educational space where I was not like the only one. I would be in professional spaces where I was, but having education and profession now be mostly white is definitely a challenge that I've kind of adjusted to. But I think the number one thing for me is when you hear someone say something, like if you see something, you have to say something, because it is one of those things where as soon as someone breaks the tension and allows to say that this is racist or this is not okay, or this is not the true story of slavery, or this is not the true story of whatever, like whatever name we might be calling an African American person or a Black person that we don't need to be calling, you have to say something, because it reframes the culture and it sets a tone that you have to set. Like you can't wait for anyone else to do it for you. And I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy being that person. Like I was in a section last week, and I'm in a feminism class, and the teaching team is all white, and they played like 3 videos about intersectionality, and I was like, but look at the teaching team.
Right.
Let's really think about this for a second as we're talking about intersectionality. So in section, I wrote on my note card when we were doing like anonymous notes that I wrote kind of like a challenge toward that, and I said, if we're going to talk about intersectionality, like why can't we do that intersectionally? And even though they didn't have a response for me that was appropriate or was not racist, they were honest and said that they had never been a part of a not all-white teaching team at Harvard. 7 years at Harvard, never been a part of a not all-white teaching team. And even though that is not an answer, that's not something that makes me feel better, it's important for them to have to say that. It's important for them to have to be honest about that. Like, you know what I mean? That it didn't make me feel better, it made me feel worse. But for them to have to recognize and to realize the harms that they are doing, and for the other Asian students that were in the class and the other not white students in the class to realize that we're all in this together. You know, that this is something, I'm not gonna let this be something we don't talk about.
Yeah.
And I appreciate and I'm proud of myself in the moments where I do that. It's not easy, but you have to put the responsibility on the people that are actually doing the messed up thing. It's not my fault. So that's my advice, and that's how I try to navigate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Manny. I'm a second-year medical student and president of MSU Com's class of 2025. Marley, it is an absolute pleasure to hear you speak today. You are so eloquent and such an inspiration. I have 3 questions here for you, and the last one will be mine. But are there any movies or TV shows that inspired you as a kid?
As a kid. Okay, I really like X-Men. X-Men is like really up there for me. It's because my mom, it's really my mom. She's like the X-Men like fanatic. But X-Men is up there for me. I mean, they modeled them after some of the biggest social justice leaders of our time. I personally have always been like a Magneto girl, like in my heart. Like I understand his idea, it's flawed. Trust me, it's flawed. But I see what he's going for, and I always enjoyed that X-Men sort of like, it talked about what it meant to be different and what it means to assimilate and what it means to like really feel isolated and to be more gifted than the people that you need to like assimilate or appeal with in these instances. I can't speak for everybody, but I really enjoyed X-Men as a kid. And what else? Honestly, I really loved like sports documentaries. I've always been a huge sports fanatic, and I think that like the NFL and the NBA have such great challenges, but there is something beautiful about watching people who believe in meritocracy enjoy and reap the benefits of meritocracy. I don't personally believe in meritocracy, but it's really nice to see people that put their effort, put their hard work into things, grind to things, and are able to achieve those things. Like, that's great. And it doesn't work for most of our community, and it has all these great flaws, but I think there's something that has always been beautiful about studying and appreciating the stories of these people that, you know, achieve such great things, even in systems that are actively harming them and are seeking to harm them. So like people like Allen Iverson is like a huge figure in our family that we just love what he was able to do for basketball. And I think about those figures all the time in the work that I do, even though I'm like literally like floppy arms. So yeah.
Okay, and second question is there anyone else who inspired you or who helped you as you started on this advocacy journey?
Well, of course, my number one sort of thanks will go to my parents as the number one, like the unit that helped and facilitated all the work I do. I think I have immense privilege being an only child doing what I do. Like, it doesn't happen if I have a sibling. It doesn't just function in the same way it does. And I'm happy that they were able to pour so much into me, and all of their time that they've taken with every trip, every outfit, every whatever. Like, they've supported me. I have a license, but I don't drive places. Like, they still got my back in many respects. And outside of that, there's one person I think of as a person that really helped me is this woman named Maddie Kahn. She was like a staff writer at Elle.com in 2016, and she had read an article where I said I wanted to be I always had a dream of being a magazine editor for my own magazine. It was like my 5th grade yearbook, I wrote that. It was something I always wanted to do. And she read that I wanted to do it, and then she emailed my people and said that she wanted to give me my own zine at Elle.com called Marley Mag. So that summer, I got to interview Misty Copeland, Ava DuVernay, Secretary Hillary Clinton, and do all of these like amazing, crazy experiences that were so scary at the time, but poured me truly into the deep end. Like, I felt like I was kind of in the deep end of what it means to be the youngest person in the room, to be the only in the room, to have like all eyes on you, to do your thing. Like, you want to do this is your dream, now do it. And you're 11. Like, go to the Hearst office. You're from New Jersey. Take a car to the Hearst office every day and sit in the pitch meetings and hear them talk about all these things that you don't know anything about, but say, move it to the right a little bit, move it to the left. Like, that was just such an immense privilege, and to have someone that is, I've continued to write for her. I wrote, write with her. She's pitched like great ideas for me to be a part of. I've gotten to interview Ruby Bridges because of her. I know, like, this is just a random person that saw my story on Twitter and is like, let me take all the privilege I have from being a white woman working at a job in New York City. She went to Harvard as well, like all the privilege she had and opportunities she had, and just pour that into me, not knowing me at all.
Yeah.
Like, that is just something that the capacity of a human to do that is just so beautiful to me. And I think because of her, I've been able to pay that forward to a lot of other people in my life, in small and in big ways. And if I didn't have someone like Maddie that did that for me, I don't think I would have the capacity to do that for other people. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, last question. This is mine. So you briefly touched on your spirituality and how that plays into mental wellness. So do you have any routines or practices that you tap into when you're feeling overwhelmed?
When I feel overwhelmed, the first thing I like to do is just to express myself in some type of way. So usually journaling. I have journals from when I was like 6 years old to now, and I've had one every year. Some where it's like literally just like my 6th grade ones, it's just like drawing like fashion designs and like writing my like morning routine. Like, it's not anything significant, but it allowed me to express myself and work out my thoughts, or to record myself. Like, I'll do like a voice memo or a photo booth on my MacBook. But if I'm really scared before I have to do something, I think for me at least, spirituality-wise, I call upon like ancestors. That's one thing. I don't know where I stand on my like beliefs of God and of all these like fantastical biblical stories we have. I believe that all these gods and all these representations of religion are a part of love. And I know that my ancestors, I've had direct experiences where my ancestors and my family members that have passed have shown me love. So I feel like when I tap on them and I think about them, even if I'm not thinking about God, I'm thinking about what God should be, which is love, you know? And I'm thinking about that sort of faith, like that faithful element of believing in what has come before me, believing in the way that this world has been built, and knowing that my family and my elders had something to do with it. So I think about my great-grandmothers, I think about my cousins that have passed away, I think about even the people that were younger than me when they died, and knowing that they loved me, that they would want me to bring that love to other people, and that my strength comes from their strength. And that's always the thing that I try to think of. I thought about them before I was out here today. Like, you just call upon them to summon all that energy that they have given you and bring it towards something else. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank you.
that.
Appreciate it.
So I want to thank our med students for sourcing all the questions, sorting them, and sharing them with us. I'm going to have you hang out here for just a second. I'm going to run back over here. Oh, y'all, this microphone.
Grab it. Do you want help? Okay.
Won't let me be great. Won't let me be great. I'm doing okay. Thank y'all. All right, so there are a couple things I want to do as we move forward. First of all, I want to thank all of you all for sharing your questions and just sharing the space and energy with us. It felt so warm up here, feeling your love and your energy. So what I want to do next is take a moment. I want to recognize quickly some of the partners who have been helping us to make today this series a success. This year we had a lot of different partners and people who partnered in different ways. So first, our dean already thanked our sponsors, but I'm gonna thank you to our financial sponsors. And then, yes, it is behind us. We had an amazing, this art was created for this year's series. It was created by Detroit-based artist Darnell Kendricks. Yes, you can show him love. And the title of this piece is This Joy I Have. It is absolutely lovely. I wasn't gonna take the time, but you all, let me say, I did not personally know Mr. Kendricks before he created this piece for us. And when I tell you that the way that this came out is so divine. So that song, This Joy I Have, is so important in the Black community, right? This joy I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. And so later, Darnell's gonna do a podcast with me to talk about creating this piece. But really quickly, I just wanna share some of what you're seeing. So he talked about watching some of the series from the past, our past speakers. And so he was inspired to create this. I love the colors. On the very, very left is Dr. West, Dr. Cornell West. The next person is Dr. William Anderson, who was holding the truth horn from God's trombones, right? I always get overwhelmed. The next is Angela Davis, who we will hear next week. And next to her is me. And Darnell didn't know me. And so when he first told me to find myself in the painting, and he said, "This is you," and I'm holding a tambourine. And for those of you that know, I'm from New Orleans, and the tambourine is so sacred in New Orleans. And he didn't even know that about me. But he painted me holding the tambourine. So as y'all can tell, I had an ugly cry when he revealed the painting. I'm trying to hold it together because, you know. And next to me is Dr. Tamora Lomax, who has, even before I was here, and she joined us here at Michigan State University, was a thought partner to me, and certainly as I was finishing my dissertation, really helped to push me to think about how it is I wanted to do this work. And I asked him, "So how did you figure out to paint us together?" He said, "Well, I watched you two in the series a couple of years ago, and when I saw you two, all I saw was joy and the love between you." And even without like really knowing about her journey to come here and be a part of our AAAS department and now religious studies, he captured that sisterhood because he thought that that's a part of Black history and wanted to reflect that here. And next to him is Dr. Robowski, who you will hear in our final week of the series, holding blueberry pie. And if you've read his books, he talks about why that symbolizes love for him, because his grandmother baked him blueberry pie and he felt loved. And so he wanted to capture love in a piece that reflected this series. And then finally, Marley, I never told you this, but this is you, sitting next to the books. And there's a red cardinal in the tree, and that symbolizes our ancestors who have gone on, but who are looking over and watching over us. And so, Darnell, I love you. Thank you so much for creating this for us and for this series. There's somebody else that I need to thank. Y'all, we're gonna see if this microphone lets me do it. I wanna ask Dina Malfitano to come to the stage. You here? I can't see anything, y'all, so I think I see you moving now. I see a figure coming. So, not another gray suit. So I thanked you first, but this is our thank you gift from the series.
Oh, wonderful.
This is for you. And this is the print.
We need a new building to put it in.
It's okay. It's okay if you cry, I cry.
Thank you.
And so we wanted to thank our dean because in the time of this series, and honestly in my time here, there's never been a time that he said no. When I said this year I wanted to do something different, and I wanted us to give something back to our community. He was like, okay, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but okay, Marita. And so our deepest appreciation goes to you, and we wanted you to have this as a gift. It's okay if you cry, because I cried. But thank you, and so.
Thank you, everybody. It means a lot. This is wonderful, and I'm just inspired by everybody, and you're wonderful. You should be a physician. I know somebody. Anyway, it's been wonderful listening to you and your story and your beautiful family. I'm sure they're all very proud of you, and we are. And thanks for joining our family, and thank you all for being a part of our family as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, you can put it back there. It's actually heavy, so y'all saw that's why I was moving like really slowly. So I want to thank especially Tony Hughes and his son, Tony Hughes, at the Sherwood Forest Art Gallery for their beautiful framing of the print. We had some partners in our book collection to support Marley's work, her time being here, and the fact that she's our youngest guest in the series to date. So let's see, I want to give some extended thanks later on in the series when we conclude our book drive. When we conclude our book drive, that's a plug, y'all. Y'all feel that we have not yet concluded our book drive. Tonight, I want to offer some words of gratitude to Nichelle Lawrence at the Socialite Society for handling book orders, for helping us with our book collection. Again, the books that we're collecting will be distributed in 3 ways. I'm going to pause here to say the first will be these beautiful, beautifully crafted lending libraries, which this is another, like, don't lose it in front of your best friends here. The Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters, y'all, they donated 10 of these libraries, and they provided all of the supplies. They built these, and 10 of these, actually 9 of these will be in East Lansing and Lansing. One of my good friends and mentors doesn't actually know, she's gonna kill me when she texts me in about 10 minutes. She doesn't know Dr. Marini Lee, who is an alum of MSU and who is the founder of Grace Academy, is going to get one of these lending libraries in Detroit. So, kill me later, Marini. Okay, so the books that we've distributed we've been collected will be distributed in the lending libraries. We're going to have a book giveaway at the conclusion of this series, and we will forward all of this information to you on the exact date. Ms. Lawrence is going to help us with that. And then finally, we're going to donate books to Reading is Fundamental. And thank you to my sorors, the devastating divas of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, for helping to collect those books, which we will donate. Marley, I'm pausing here because I heard you this morning when you talked to the young women at Waverly Junior High School, and I heard you say that it is important to ask for help. I heard you talk about that, and you said it several times. So, friends, I'm about to ask you for help. We are about halfway through our book drive. So Marley, when you said you felt like you were unsuccessful, I was like, oh, that's resonating in my spirit, because we don't have 1,000 books yet. We need your help. We need you to purchase Black Girl books. Miss Lawrence is in here, right here. You can see her at the conclusion of our program. If everybody in here buys 1 or 2 books, we will reach our goal. So you have 2 more weeks. We need your help. Please purchase Black Girl books. Please support your local booksellers, okay? All right. And then we want to thank Sweet Encounter Bakery for providing tonight's treats. I can't wait to get to them. So thank you to the Fraser family. So I would like to thank Nikki Fraser and Dr. Terry Fraser and Malia for your partnership and support. Malia actually did already collect 1,000 Black Girl books a few years ago, so thank you, Malia. The next surprise is next week, if you bring a book to donate, you will get a coupon for Sweet Encounter. So it's some sweet treats, y'all. I want to thank Uno Deuce Media, Multimedia, for live streaming and recording tonight's event, and the Wharton Center staff for making this possible. 2 more thank yous. I want to thank my team. I couldn't do this without Terry, Connie, Pei, Ayandala. I saw y'all at one point. And a huge, huge thank you to Barbara Breedlove. I think they already went outside. Y'all say thank you and y'all see them out there so that they'll feel thanked. One more, Marley. This is a print.
Yes, I was literally thinking that. I was like, when the dean came down, like, where's like, what? Like, he's gonna get, like, what? What? So I'm really, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. It's going straight to the dorm. It's going in the dorm and it's never leaving.
Okay, so that is our thank you for joining us on the series, just for all the amazing work of this whole day and the 1,000 Black Girl Books campaign. So I'm going to thank all of you for joining us. We are going to meet you across the hall for a reception, a book signing. Y'all can take your pictures. What I'm going to ask as a favor, though, is if y'all please, please, please just stay in here for just a second. The ushers are going to hold y'all so that Marley's quicker than me. I'm cute, y'all, but I'm getting older. So she's going to run, I'm going to do something rather quickly up these stairs, and then we'll be ready for you to join us across the hall, okay?
Thank you
So
all
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
This is your certificate of